In that sense, sketching and design drawing is a kind of tool to manage the complexity in design. So a gradual control of the increasing transformation is always subject in design process. By what? By the drawing. All right. So progressive transformation from simple, vague and unpredictable to the metric, detailed, the concrete ones is always subject to be evolved. And in his or her, I think, a very good article, The Dialectics of Sketching. Gabriela Goldsmith, I think you have already read.
I read, yeah. I read.
Yeah. She conceptualizes the process of design as seeing as and seeing that, what it means. So in another article, other authors, I think Giro or something, I forgot the authors, they describe the design process as a kind of co-evolutionary process. And I will turn back to the idea of seeing as and seeing what. So what does it mean? Is that we designers, we don't always imagine, but we also solve the problems, given problems. They set the problems first, and then the first act of the designers is to suggest something, all right? By creating his or her own solution space. Then suggesting a kind of very rough sketching as form, then then she or he recognizes how this sketch or drawing behaves, all right? The first sketch is something like seeing as, all right? By asking what if question. What if this building or this settlement will be like this? Then putting on that paper, they recognize the certain performance, certain behavior of the product or artifact or a building, and see what seeing that process appears. Recognizes the actual quality involved in this drawing. Then the problem space emerges. So by putting the first line on the paper, actually the designer creates his or her own problem. All right.
Yeah.
Then again, he responds to that problem and increase the design drawing accordingly. Put another one. What if seeing as? Put another one. Then seeing that, recognizing something more problems, more opportunities in that drawing, and then such a process becomes a kind of evolutionary one, on which the first seed and the outcome, the final outcome, will be completely different in types. All right. In this sense, I think we can think about sketching as a kind of very operational tool to manage complexity in design within such subtly set step-by-step piecemeal process of design. If you wish, then I would like to relate this design idea in relation with the very intense act of drawing with urban sketching. All right. For me, urban sketchers are potentially a very good designers, though they don't have such an aim per se.
Olgu, I have a question in this matter. How about the orientation? You know, the urban designers is like the doctor or surgeon in the city, and they always engage with urban issues that are so popular for the social matters. And also, the architect has the tiny skill about the city, and they always address the one math to design. But in urban design or urban planning, we have the bunch of forms of city and masses. So if we call this, the urban designers has the problem orientation approach in issues, Is it right or not? If there's not have the product-oriented ones. So if the skills is different, these differences between the process of design in architecture and urban design make the competitive the points in the first visual thinking. You know, if I have the one guy to engage with him or her to design one thing, it's easy for me to challenge this, to handle the process. So if we change it to the bunch of peoples, so we have the social problems too. So in this matter, there is this the difference between that visual thinking is coming to using to the design.
All right. Well, I'm not that much expert on architectural design. I don't want to make big words about that. But as much as I follow the design, compare the design processes involved, I will say there's a kind of very direct relationship between the design drawing and the end result, unlike what experienced in urban design. So usually the first sketch of urban designers are always subject to be distorted, or in quotation, distorted or deformed or modified within the long processes of implementation of urban projects. Because in urban projects, there are many different actors involved. So in that sense, it's really hard to follow a very short and straight line between the design sketch and the end result, the morphology of the design projects. So it's always, you know, it's not always, but mostly easy to represent the continuity, to depict the continuity between the design idea and the end product in architectural design, as you exemplified in the case of Richard Rogers' drawings. And in urban design, it's a little bit hard, actually. If you are not commissioned to a project which is governed or controlled by single authority, right? If you are not a designer of a new town, which will be, you know, implemented by one single authority. So that's the main difference. The point is that in each and every profession about spatial design, including urban design and architectural design, so not only the empowerment of imagination of the designer by looking at sci-fi film movies or literatures, etc. But I think the main source is observation. All right, because inheritance characteristics. Each and every designer actually is occupied or equipped by a certain inventory of the everyday of what he or she observed so far. So we can actually classify the design process into three evolutionary mechanisms, let's say. First, inheritance, then variation, and selection. What I mean by that, as I said, each and every designer operates with whatever she or he knows has in her mind as the inventory. Okay, it's called prototype. You know, you observe the existing the built environment. If you had a chance to visit some different cities, your inventory, the set of your prototypes gets richer and diversified, and you most probably have a good opportunity to become a good designer. Why? Because you recognize something more, and you observe, you store a lot of stuff, a lot of design information from the genetic pool of the city. All right, then you can create a kind of variation process by cross relations of those elements and rules together to come up with something else. So in that sense, design process is not a kind of, you know, imagination of something out of a blue sky, but it always operates on the typological knowledge of the designer, which can be acquired by direct observation. All right. So this direct observation should be not only the unconscious observation, okay, looking at it and, you know, memorizing later on. No, it can also be disciplinized by drawing on the site. All right. To grasp the main relationships between the urban elements and their specific, how do you say, compositional rules, codes involved, then designers inevitably increase his or her own design knowledge. All right. In turn, he or she operates on those materials, the prototypes, let's say. So sketching, in that sense, can be utilized for recognizing everything in our existing built-up environment. But then again, sketching is used for variation, as we said. So we always evolve our thinking in a design in a specific context. Then drawing is also important for selection. Selection means, you know, self-reflection, communication with not only with the third parties, but also within yourself. You draw and you select, you eliminate, or select for good, and you also draw to communicate your ideas. So in that sense, in each and every fundamental stage of in general, spatial design processes, drawing is involved. You cannot escape from that. That's the thing that I would like to emphasize in this.
So, I must inform that we have the 5 minutes to ending the interview in that part, and we have the sorry about that. I must notice this. Yeah. For the last questions, because I have 5 questions before, and you joined all of the questions and answered them repeatedly. There's no problem about that. For the last questions that you must answer in 4 minutes. If you have this kind of thinking and this kind of process, that mind process in urban design process, and we have the different steps, and in which steps, like a brainstorming, the visioning, that producing the goals, the strategies, and the policies, the product mapping imaginary, like the strategy plan, policy plan, urban design framework, urban design brief, alternative. Which step needs a much recalling from the vision thinking, and in which step that you think the sketch is so vital for it, and which one is so important?
All right. Should I give reference to my own, how do you say, experiments and experiences? All right.
Experimental, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in my own practice, actually, it's also divided into two: practice and education. In each part, I draw a lot. I have to draw a lot because I'm one of the I have been one of the coordinators of basic design studio and urban design studio. In each and every this kind of studios, you have to communicate with the students by drawing, not only talking. You know,
it's a language.
Yes, language. Exactly. And in this kind of in both domain, I use some different types of pens. All right. I start with a very thick pens. What is called coral something? I forgot the specific name for drawing. Anyway, then it gets sharper. The tip point gets thinner. which means
you use the coal panel. I think I got
yes.
that.
So the first one is always thicker. That's what I mean. When it gets thinner, what does it mean? The precision involves into our drawings. As you see in the video that you show,
Yeah.
I forgot the name of this very famous
Berkeley.
architect.
Yeah. Berkeley.
You see, he uses a very thick pen to suggest a kind of very rough sketch. All right. I always warn our students not to use thin tipped pens in the first instance. All right, because you cannot control the overall emerging geometry and composition of the sketch. Then you should start with the rough one. All right. Then you can involve even the ruler. Usually I use. When the metric quality of the composition gets much more important, you can even use small ruler to control the continuity and the coherency of the composition easier with the ordering system. Then I usually first start with structure, the how do you say, configuration of the overall setting, and then I put the compositional quality, the building settings, the depth, the length, and the density of the footprints, etc., figure and ground relationships, then the composition. So in this case, first sketch is always structural and rough and unpredictable, should be, as we said. And I always motivate my students to come up with some kind of working models as well. So this is a kind of sketching too. Sketching doesn't always be in the form of drawing. It's a very misconception for many designers. Sketching can be done by models.
Yeah, basic definition is the rapid way to the present.
Yes,
there's no definition. So
can you make my models
too? Yeah, 1 minute to finish you and ask questions. Part, please.
Oh, all right. I have 1 minute.
Go on.
All right. I would like to mention one of our recent article jointly written with Onur Tümtürk and Irmak Yavuz. If they watch me, I would like to say hi to them. In this article called Imagineering, the combination of imagination and engineering, which means design, let's say, for designing far feature, I always motivate designers to come up with some kind of collage-like sketches as well. So collage can be a kind of sketching tool too. So sketching doesn't have to be made by lines, but by making some
brainstorming basics too.
Yeah.
Olgu. Yeah. This brainstorming basic. I think collage is the basic.
This should be the main message in this, I think, talk. So starting with the image itself, always trigger the creative processes, even for the futurist urban design too, in which it's really hard for the young designers to envision the future lifestyles, living forms, and so on. And then I usually ask them to decompose this image and to decode that, to derive the morphological rules involved and create a kind of system structure, which means design, in a kind of backcasting system, which is a kind of inverse engineering process. So always starting with an image. That's the main message that I would like to give.
Yes, thanks. I must ask questions from our audiences. So we have the 8 minutes to finish this interview. I must select from we have the 10 or 11 questions. The first one, how can we improve our visual thinking? And the second one, urban planner students. Can I have a career of the focus on urban sketches as the urban planner? Okay, so first ask the first question: how can we improve our talent in visual thinking?
Well, just draw, just do it. That I would like to say. Not only making some kind of design drawings, but also whenever you visit, wherever you sit on the cafe or something, just draw. To representing the spatial setting is a
But
kind
it
of
doesn't matter
design
the
practice itself.
it doesn't matter the subject. You said draw everything from the
Yeah,
one math to the
exactly.
arrangement of masses. Yes.
Yeah.
For the second questions, uh, he or she said asked about the process of design in architecture, and is it the classical process? I think that after the programming we have the schematic design in architecture, and after that we must develop the design. So in the first point in schematic design, how we can handle the problem of the sketching in this. And you said about the if we have the observation before and we have the memories about that, we can recall the pattern and paradigms from the vision, and we must have the literature about that. I think this is good. So we have 5 minutes only. I can't ask another questions because I must ask you, Olgu, to recommend. And if you have any recommendation and something useful for our students, our audiences to improve their capability to designing. And from the first point of visual thinking, you said something much about the physiological properties of human being and something, the powerful thing in human being. So if you have an exact recommendation or exact exercise about this, can you tell us to better inform about that?
Well, in our design studios, we don't make any kind of very specific sessions to improve our drawing skills, because drawing should be embedded within the design process itself. This was the message actually of my little presentation, is that there is no distinction between design and drawing. Design means design and drawing at the same time. So
They are
historically,
saying.
it's impossible. All right, cognitively, it's impossible. What I would suggest for the young designers to be a good urban or architectural designers is just draw. Nothing more. Today, I worn my one of my favorite T-shirts. It says on that, though he's not my favorite urbanist, let's say,
Yeah.
Le Corbusier says, I prefer drawing to
Drawing
talking,
to
because
okay.
drawing is faster and
Sharper.
it leaves less room for lies. This is important. And because drawing is quite transparent, though it's open for new interpretations, it cannot be used for lie. But please make sure that he makes that quotation before the computational techniques emerged in visualization. Today, especially visionary drawings, presentation drawings are utilized to manipulate people's impression or preferences in the market, in the free market economy. So we should be a little bit skeptical about the visual representation and its techniques in our current design practice as well.
Yep. So for the result, I must say to our audiences that we must set these beliefs in a right way, that there is no need to sketching elaborately, sketching very good, or something drawing very have the aesthetic diametrics or something else. We only express the idea from our mind that is related from our memories or observation, thinking, literature, everything else, into the paper as a medium to our audience. So there is no problem. And this is complex to all of the especially students, that I'm so weak in expressing, and this is a bad thing that I can't express the something in design step good, and another one is better than me. This is not a good measurement.
That's true.
Yeah. So
may I say something about that? May I add that point? This is a very critical point. They always ask us when they first apply to.
Okay, we have 2 minutes.
Then it will be all right.
No, keep it on 2 minutes. Keep it to up to 2 minutes.
All right. In the first application, the students are always asked that very common question. They ask, "I'm not that talented in drawing. Can I be a good urban designer or architect?" The very shortcut answer is no. You don't need any talent. Actually, a given faculty given by God or nature, whatever. No, only thing you need is skill, and skill is not innate. It can be developed. It can be improved by practice. All right. So certain how do you say, intelligence, visual intelligence is the must to keep it basic, you know. But the thing is that you should put an effort to turn this intellect into a kind of skill. In that sense, practice is important. Practice is maybe the only thing to be a good designer, not the talent itself.
Yeah, thank you very much, dear Olgu. We have only 30 seconds. The interview. It was my pleasure to have a conversation with you, and you are a very, very amazing guy and professional manner to have this conversation.